Big matchup Wednesday night in college basketball as Gonzaga takes on Texas, number 2 versus number 11, and some folks, ESPN predictors is one of them, believes that Texas will win this game. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slasher U. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Feck, and we are going to break down this preview here between the Bulldogs and the Longhorns. Texas Longhorns, well, they have done a pretty decent job shooting from the field, but have had an awful job shooting when it's behind that three-point line. We've seen a lot of good love from Gonzaga after the win on the Carrier against Michigan State. We saw them get the job done, even if it was only by a point. They hold on to that number 2 ranking. Wonder if they can keep holding on for just one more week. They're going to have to get through Texas to do that first, Steve.
Yeah, and this is a really fascinating matchup in a lot of ways. I want to talk about Chris Beard, the Texas coach, first. No doubt that he feels pressure being an alum and being the big high-profile hire, taking him away from Texas Tech, but he's never going to admit it. He's always focusing on the positive. He's always stressing about moving forward and building on what we have. And certainly the foundation was laid last year, after he came over, from Lubbock. And for him, I think Timmy Allen returning was huge, and he has definitely put that leadership yoke, around his neck and on his shoulders. He had a double-double against Houston Christian, but he's also getting so much attention from opponents that other players are cashing in. Tyrese Hunter is playing big among the high expectations after transferring in from Iowa State. Imagine if Iowa State still had Tyrese Hunter. We'd be having a different conversation, in the 12th. But Hunter had 18 in the opener against UTEP. He's creating scoring opportunities off of offensive rebounds. He's taking the ball to the hoop. And I think that's good that he's driving the lane, because I'm really concerned about Texas's shooting. They missed their first 14 3-pointers in their last game.
Yeah, 19.4 from the three-point line. That is something they just can't do. And they're having issues from the free-throw line, too. 64% so early in the season. They got to figure out and take care of some of the small things. And right now, it seems like shooting, they're doing a general okay job. But the small things, the nickel and dime, if you will, the free-throw shots, the being a little more consistent from the three, if we're not, you're not going to stay number 11 if you stick with numbers like that.
Oh yeah, but again, Chris Beard, he just doesn't seem fazed by it. It's almost like he's coaching the Globetrotters. He's not coaching Texas, and they're struggling at the free throw line or having a problem scoring from downtown. He's just like, everything's fine. And again, he's coaching Texas against Gonzaga, and I'm just an old fat guy, talking with you all. So obviously Chris Beard has an edge in that department. I also want to see how more involved they're going to get their freshman Dylan Mitchell. And I think if they just let him dunk all night, I think their shooting percentage is going to go way up, because he is putting up some serious highlight reel dunks. This kid is going to be really, really good. Now, I have a question for you. Did you think we would go this far without talking about Drew Timme?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I was about to bring him up if you weren't, because, we talked about the field goal percentage and the 3-point percentage and free throw percentage. Well, Gonzaga's doing pretty good from the free throw line, with the exception of Drew Timme. He is 6 from 13 from the charity strike so far this season. It's great that he's back this year. And I know we're going to have a lot of great things to talk about him all season long. So I actually found something that we can nail on him about. And this is his free throws. He's got to get that figured out, man. He does such a great job causing the fouls, causing to let himself get to the free throw line. If you're shooting already 13 times in 2 games, you're doing something right. You're getting there, but you can't be less than 50% from the strike. You just can't do it, Steve.
But you can't. And it's funny you bring that up, because in essence, he forced 3 Michigan State forwards to foul out of the game.
Right. He does. He drives it. He makes it happen. But imagine if he would have hit those shots. The game is not a 1-point game. It changes the way that the game is played if he can just make those easy buckets,
Absolutely,
hitting those free throw lines.
Absolutely. But again, he did have 22 points.
Mm-hmm.
He had 13 rebounds. He blocked 4 shots.
Yep.
So, Mr. Mustache is doing okay. And I guarantee you, Texas hasn't forgotten that he lit them up for 37 points last year when the two teams played in Spokane.
Yeah.
Anything else about this game that intrigues you?
Well, I want to just see how Gonzaga looks after the Michigan State game. I mean, that is what really pays attention to me because that game could have went either way, right? And I think that's why, you have predictors like ESPN giving 67% in favor of Texas to win this game. A lot of people don't believe that Gonzaga should have held on to the number 2 overall spot in the first rankings that came out. They thought Houston should have jumped them. I'm not really against that. I think that is a really solid argument, to be completely honest. Regardless, they are number 2, Texas number 11. We saw how great Drew Timme can play. We have seen some great play from Julian Strawther as well. I'd like to see him step up a little bit more, but have seen some really good play from them. This is I don't want to call it a gut check game for Gonzaga because it's still early in the season, but it's a hit in the stomach. It's a soft elbow maybe, and it's something to say, hey, we just basically almost got embarrassed by a Michigan State squad that's unranked, which I don't believe that should be the case. I don't think it's going to be the case for very long. But we're supposed to be showing that we're the number 2 team in the nation. We are always made a joke about once we get into the March Madness as a number 1 seed that shouldn't be a number 1 seed because how weak our division and our conference is. Let's show that we can have a tough non-conference schedule and do good through it. And this is where it starts right here in this Texas game. I think it already started, but this is where it continues. And you know what? I will say it. This is a gut check for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and those are great. That's a great analogy because I think there's going to be a matchup in this game that's going to play to that a little bit. And again, this is why Mark Few schedules games like this. I mean, he wants his team to have those gut checks and be challenged. But I think when you look at the point guard play, you've got Marcus Carr for Texas. He's played over 4,000 minutes in his career between Pitt and Texas, and he averages in double figures. Nolan Hickman certainly had his issues against Michigan State's defense. That's very physical and very aggressive, like Texas, like Marcus Carr. And Hickman has really never been the primary distributor until this year. So if he struggles again in this game and Carr can keep things moving for Texas, I can maybe buy into a little bit more why Texas is picked on that ESPN predictor. I don't know whether they're using a Ouija board for that. I don't know how they get to that number, but generally it's pretty accurate. But I'm really not sure unless they're really thinking that the Gonzaga we saw against Michigan State is going to have even more troubles against a physical defensive team like Texas. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what might be playing into that.
Yeah, Texas has only allowed 44 points per game. Now, granted, they have played UTEP and Houston Christian. This is going to be this is the first test for Texas, no doubt. 67.3%. That's what it says for the matchup predictor in this one on ESPN's app. It says according to ESPN Analytics, whatever that means. But it's always just a fun indicator to look at when we are talking about these and looking through the stats and previewing the game. This is even on the Vegas lines. Over under on this one's 144. I mean, we already talked about it in college basketball. It's sucker bets if you're going to play, especially this early in the season. Catch it on ESPN2 at 9:30 Eastern time. Wednesday night. This is gonna be a great matchup. We've been loaded with ranked matchups all week long. This is where we really get the fun as we get into the holiday season. This is when college basketball is at its best during the regular season until we get to March Madness. But again, 9:30 Eastern time, ESPN2, Gonzaga, number 2 in the nation, taking on number 11, Texas Longhorns.